So, hello and welcome to the wiki event. My name is Adrian,
Hello, my name is Sammy.
and today we are delighted to have with us Imbue team. How are you, Sam?
Hey everyone, it's Sam Elemi from Imbue.network. I'm really excited to be here.
It's an honor to have Imbue and you, Sam, with us today in this amazing interview. So for now, we are going to start with that interview. We are going to start with a short question. It's if you could define Imbue in only one sentence, in only one phrase for us.
Of course, it's Imbue is at its core milestone-based vesting through democracy. So people have an idea, people have a goal, they list up milestones and set percentages against them. And if people like them, they fund them, but the funds are locked in escrow until the progress is done and voted on chain. And that way, its accountability is really empowered by the blockchain.
That's wonderful. So now you can explain Imbue more in detail and more in depth for our listeners.
Yeah. So what we wanted to build when we built Imbue was the blockchain is great for trustless verification, right? And over the past year or two, we saw so many projects launch with so many promises, and a lot of them really didn't deliver. And a lot of them were actually outright scams or rug pulls. And we wanted to build a better place, a better ecosystem, because that's the only way that we lead towards adoption. At the same time, we wanted to build a platform to allow anyone and everyone to monetize their skill sets, to monetize their talents. So that's how Imbue was born. So, for example, Sam, I can have an idea where I want to set up 100,000. I set a website and I need $100,000 to do it, right? And you, Adrian, you believe in me. You give me that $100,000. With traditional launch pads, you've given me the full amount, right? And that's it. You're just waiting. You're waiting, hoping I deliver. What with Imbue, I have to tell you, look, I will hire my team and I want 10%. I will, I will build a website and I want 30%. And I will launch a product and I want 40%. So I list out on chain what I promised to do with your money. And then every time I finish one item of the milestone, I submit it on chain. That opens up voting. And you, Adrian, depending on how much you put in, your vote is equal to how much you put in, and you say yes or no on the progress. And if you vote yes, I'm able to withdraw that percentage. If you vote no, I get feedback as to why no. And that way we protect people from over promises. We protect people from any particular reason that projects fail. Projects fail all the time. At the same time, Imbue Enterprise allows companies, entities, governmental bodies, there's so much interest from the Web 2 world in the Web 3 world, right? And what it allows us to do is now say, I have an idea. Let's say Sammy has an idea where he works at a brand, he works at a company, he works with a treasury in Web 3, and they have an idea where they want to build out content, or they want someone to do videos for them, or they want them to do some work, like technical work. They want us to build the UI. They can submit a brief to Imbue. Then everyone around the world can now submit a proposal against that brief and say, hey, Sammy, you're asking for 100,000 for someone to do this work. This is what I've done historically in my career. Here's my LinkedIn, for example. I can do your work for you. And here are my milestones. And then Sammy can choose the proposal that fits or the most attractive, and is able to fund that project knowing his money is safe until he votes the progress through, right? So that brings in a wide range of utility, and it categorically answers the criticism that Web3 faces, which is it lacks utility. What are you going to do with your Bitcoin or Ethereum? Now you're able to go out to people who are outside of the Web3 ecosystem and say, this is what you can do. You can get opportunities, just don't exist where you live. You can't get work, but you have the talent. Now you're able to get work.
Well, thanks for that amazing explanation about Imbue. And I love the example as a real example that Sammy and I were building, and that was amazing. Thank you, Sam. So now we are going about the crowdfunding. For our users that don't know what is crowdfunding, you can explain it more in deeper on how this works?
Yeah, so essentially crowdfunding similar to like Kickstarter, GoFundMe, Indiegogo. There's lots of websites that you can basically post an idea on and say, look, I've got an idea. I've got some expertise that I can deliver, but I don't have the funds, right? And I don't want to go to the bank for a loan to give me this, or I don't necessarily want to go to VCs to deliver this, right? What I will go to are communities and say, hey, you might find this idea interesting. If you fund me, I will deliver on it, right? That is the crowdfunding model. You go to communities, you go to the crowd, and you get very little from a lot of people to deliver the same value versus going to VCs and getting a large amount from a smaller number of people.
Thanks for that, Sam. So now you can explain us, the main difference between the traditional method of financing and the crowdfunding. What makes this more useful for the users and more beneficial for that?
Well, they're able to get in with smaller amounts, really, right? So we're lowering the barrier of entry for people to get in, but at the same time ensuring we protect them, because inside the protocol itself is the voting mechanism. So that protection is extremely important because these are people coming in and might not be as knowledgeable, right, around the domain as experienced as traditional VCs. So we lower the barrier of entry while ensuring they're protected, because at each moment in time, every single milestone that has been promised, they get a vote on it. And now everyone in the community who has put money in, who has money or skin in the game or something to lose, if the project doesn't deliver, they have to vote the progress through. Now, projects fail all the time. We understand this. Like hypothetically, let's say I'm going to open up a shop here in London, and I have asked for that $100,000. What happens? If something out of my hands causes projects to fail. Lots of startups fail. Let's say COVID hit, right? And the government tells me you have to shut shop, right? That's not my fault, but the project has failed. Anyone who has funded, right, is able to raise a vote of no confidence. In democracy, that's basically saying, I don't think this person or project are going to deliver because of these reasons. So when that vote of no confidence is raised, anyone who has funded has a say in this, equal to how much they put in. And they can say yes or no. And when the majority vote, we're defining the majority here as 75%, but when the majority of the funders vote and that vote of no confidence passes, then all the locked funds that have yet to be approved go back. So that's where we're doing accountability empowered by the blockchain, because everything you put in is transparent and open on the blockchain. So you know how much you're going to get back, and you know when you're going to get it back. That's how it's different.
Okay, that's really amazing. So if I'm a project that wants to build its new Web3 application, what should I do exactly?
Well, for one thing, if you want to use Imbue, at the moment, the bear market is really harming a lot of projects, right? Maybe this now is not the greatest time to launch a project for funding. But if you have a community behind you, you're able to point them and say, look, we were going to use Imbue to launch. You can fund us in a variety of different currencies, KSM being probably the most notable, Kusama, and they'll be able to fund you knowing that they're going to only give you the funds when you deliver on your work. But because the risk is reduced, you're able to raise more. You're able to ask for more, because traditionally you can't have high evaluations because this project may or may not fail at any point during the duration you're building it. But when you're having it behind milestones, you've reduced the risk, and you're able to ask for more money. So yeah, if you want to create a project, absolutely come in. We have a council at the moment of 4 core team members and 3 community team members. That council will eventually grow, but that's really just to help you work out what your milestones should be. It's a decentralized protocol, so we cannot stop people raising projects. We can just guide them.
Okay, that's really wonderful. I think that users will be delighted to get into the Imbue system with this amazing system that it has. And what can you say us about the transparency?
So everything's on chain, right? Everything's on chain. At the moment, accounts are only involved early on. So to, for example, choose which projects can open a funding round, and really when the project is approved. And the reason for that is protection, right? We don't want scams coming through. But eventually, that we've already got the democracy palettes. Palettes in the Polkadot ecosystem are modules or pieces of Lego blocks. So the functionality to hand over the reins to the wider community is already there. Just a matter of building out the UIs or the user interfaces to allow people visibility and transparency over what's happening on chain. Everything is already on chain, but visualizing it is a bit difficult at the moment, unless you're very familiar with Polkadot.js, which is an incredibly powerful tool, but might be a little bit scary for people who are not very tech savvy. So the plan is we build out this intuitive UI that people are much more comfortable with. And then what we will do is move it over to democracy. So, the community, the Imbue community can say, yeah, we like this project, so it can ask for funding, right? And that's when it then is able to ask for funding. And the same goes for approving a project and so on and so forth. Because really, we have to define, what is an approval? What happens if I ask for 100,000 and I got 70, right? Or I got 75? That's something that the community need to agree upon. What's acceptable? What happens if I ask for 100 and I got 120, right? Should I be able to get more than 100, right? All that functionality is yet to be defined.
Thank you, Sam, for that explanation about transparency. I think that it was very clear for our listeners. Now let's jump into an amazing collaboration that you have been almost recently with Mangata. Mangata is another project that we have interviewed recently, and we love the ecosystem and your ecosystem too. So now you can explain us how this collaboration has become.
Yeah, I mean, we love the Mangata guys, right? Tommy and JC. It really started through our community members, right? One of our community members, Mike, remember said, Mangata has the same ethos around how they do things like Imbue, right? And how much they care about their community, how much they care about transparency, right? And there's synergies there, and for the whole point of building a DEX without gas, without front runners and bots, that goes very closely aligned with the idea that they should be fair and open to everyone, right? It shouldn't be bots coming in and really taking all the liquidity in a way. Through transactions and front running transactions. So we met them, we had a chat with them, and we realized that because our ethos are very, very similar, we have the same passions around Web3, we have the same goals, decentralization. That's how we started, and we're actually working very heavily together around building out a lot more things for the ecosystem, the entire Polkadot ecosystem. There's a lot more projects involved, and we hope to announce that very soon. But us and Mangata are almost leading that front.
Okay, wonderful. So we have been able to see that you have a token, the Imbue token. What can you tell us about this? How does it work?
Yeah, so the Imbue token is mostly for governance, right? So things like, you vote for what project get funded. You do that with the Imbue token. When you're funding a project, you can fund it in the Imbue token, but you can also, because of Polkadot and interoperability, you can fund it in different currencies. But we're also adding the fact that you have to lock in Imbue, right, to fund in a different currency. So for example, if you're funding if you want to give someone $100, you give it to them in whatever currency they choose. but you also have to lock a certain amount of Imbue for your voting rights. And every time a milestone gets approved, the initiator, the person who asked for the funds, they get the currency they chose, and then the same percentage gets unlocked and returned to the original contributor as the Imbue for them to go and contribute to someone else. So core to what we're doing is really the Imbue token, and eventually for what we're doing with Imbue Enterprise, because we're going to utilize the team's skill set. There's so many projects who want to continue building in Substrate. We're going to say, look, we in the Imbue team have built this platform. So we already have a demonstrable, proven track record. We can build you some Web3 product, right? So if you want something done in Web3, absolutely raise a brief. The Imbue team will be just one of many, many freelancers that will apply for work. But if the Imbue team eventually do win the brief, then any funds that are brought into the project, part of it will then be used to buy more Imbue, essentially, having buyback pressure on the market. Hence, the part of the incentives to really hold Imbue is by supporting the team, we will be buying back the token again.
Thanks for that, Annalyn. That was amazing. And now we are going to, well, my friend Sammy are going to ask you about an amazing collaboration that you have with.
Yes, so by the way, thank you for the amazing explanation of this token. And let's jump into Fractal. We have seen the partnership that you have with them. What do you win with this partnership, and will we see more collaborations in the future?
Absolutely. So with Fractal, it was around KYC and regulations, right? So with crowdfunding, you have some KYC regulations. If you're based in the US, for example, you have certain requirements where other people around the world don't, right? So the power of Polkadot allows us this interoperability, and eventually Fractal aren't a parachain, but they have plans on being one. But we're offloading some of the know your customer rules over to Fractal. They're well designed to define and handle that data. The project can choose, if I choose, yes, everyone who applies to me or to fund me has to be known, so they can point them to Fractal. Fractal does their KYC and their identity, and then Fractal will then tell the project initiator yes or no for a particular project, right? And then they can produce a whitelist, essentially saying only these people can contribute towards my goal because they're the ones that have done KYC. So the beauty of Polkadot is it allows different teams or different app chains to build their exact product or focus on their exact business, and it moves away or abstracts away the need to worry about security, to worry about consensus, which means that more and more chains will start partnering up with other chains to provide services that they don't necessarily want to build out, right? And that's almost the opposite of Ethereum, which wants to build everything on its own.
Thank you for that amazing explanation, for sure. And now we are going to talk about if you can give us some future plans for Imbue and some amazing stuff that will come soon. I don't know if you can.
Yeah. So we're powering on ahead with Imbue Enterprise. The goal of which we want to go outside the Polkadot ecosystem and really get more users and adoption. I think that's one of the biggest pain points of the Polkadot ecosystem, which is the lack of active users. However, for adoption, you have to categorically answer why, right? Why should I come to you? Why Polkadot? Why Kusama? And more specifically, you have to answer, how does this make my life better? That's the only way you get adoption. That's why, things like social media boomed. People were able to answer the why, or how does this make my life better? You've got the smartphone boom. Everyone started, when first you were like, oh, you've got everything on your phone. Yeah, it was a massive paradigm shift. And everyone is now using a smartphone, right? That's because it categorically answered why and how does it make my life better. What we're going to be building is this Imbue enterprise that allows people to submit their briefs and ask for work to be done. So during this bear market, you were able to go to people who already have funds but want work, need it, right? We are opening up, for example, we're opening up channels to a lot more projects who can utilize their own token to incentivize their community to do more work for them. So Mangata, for example, could be, hey, we want a full-blown video on all our LPB and how to use it and why, right? Or a series of them, and we're going to pay people in MJX. That's an example, right? Or we could go to a brand and they will be like, hey, we want something done in the metaverse. They can use Imbue Enterprise for that. Or, we could go to people who are not even doing anything on Polkadot. They want to do something like, I want someone to write me an article, want someone to build me a website, want someone to design me an NFT, right? They could utilize Imbue Enterprise for that. And there are no Web3 software consultancies. There's a lot of agencies, right? And there's also an issue of, you're not sure of the quality of people's work. You don't know what they've done. But with Imbue Enterprise, you have an on-chain record of how many projects they've successfully delivered and their milestones when they delivered them and how long for, right? How were they late? Were they not? That power of transparency is extremely attractive for people who are in the Web2 world. So building a UI that is comfortable for them or familiar to them is going to be really powerful to gain more users. We have to go outside the Polkadot ecosystem to do that, to grow our community. Those are our biggest plans over the next three months. After which, I think what we want to do with Imbue is build out a decentralized fellowship. So not everyone can apply for work. You have to be qualified to actually apply for work, and we want to build out a fellowship of a decentralized fellowship, so you get interviews, right? So if there are Substrate devs out there, we in the Imbue team and another team from Mangata maybe can interview them, and if we're happy with them, they'll join the fellowship and they'll be able to apply for work, but they'll also be there to interview other people, and we grow this pool of people who are qualified to do work. So when these Web2 entities and brands and corporations come in, they know they're getting quality because it's been pre-validated for them. They've already had people who have validated whether or not these people are qualified to even apply for your work, right? So it gives them much more confidence in it. After we built the fellowship, one last thing I'll add is we in the Polkadot ecosystem, I think one of our biggest pain points is, and I think this goes towards all of Web3, not just Polkadot, but there is no core place people can go to learn and educate themselves about Web3. The social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, YouTube, they're echo chambers. It's very dangerous to go out and say, look, I think this project can have some risks, or there are certain problems with this project, because they get shouted down, right? You get you're not going to make it, or you get armies of people attacking you for just raising risks. Look at what happened to Terra Luna. That affected the entire crypto ecosystem. Yet people raised some of their concerns and they were shouted down. So what we want to build is a way for a team of researchers, developers, engineers, influencers, a team of teams of these people, where they will get funded. For them to do the work, you have to pay them. They get funded through something like Imbue, and then they're beholden to the community where they say, hey, we're interested in this project. Why don't you go review it? So then they produce a review, unbiased, independent. They know that other teams will be peer reviewing their review. So they have to be honest and not shilling certain projects, right? And then the community has an independent and unbiased place to read and educate themselves. I see I want to call it an integrity DAO, because I want them to go out to these projects and say, we'd like to invite you in and talk about these issues we found, talk about the risks or problems we can see affecting people. And, if those projects then address some of these issues, we build out a safer Web3. We build out a safer space where more people can come in. It's essentially like a Web3 watchdog, which says, here are some red flags these things are closed source or hidden or in control of 2 or 3 people. And for it to be decentralized, it has to do X, Y, Z. Let's talk to the communities. Let's talk to those projects and see what do we need to do to build a better product, to build a safer Web3. Those are really eventually the goals for the next year.
Amazing, Sam. The future plans of Imbue seems really amazing. We are sure that our communities are excited to see your progress. So now let's imagine that I am a user, a current user that loves the blockchain world and the Web3 and all of that, and I want to help to the Imbue team reporting a error or a bug, or I just have a suggestion what I have to make. Can I help in this way? And if it is the case, can you tell us how, please?
Sorry, can you repeat your question, Sami? Help how?
Yes, so if I am a user and I want to, I don't know, report a bug or an error of the system, or I have a suggestion to make, can I help in this way?
Yeah, of course. So we've got, if you're a coder, you can go and create a GitHub issue. Absolutely. We've already had people do that before, right? If you want to, we've got a FAQ and bug section in our Discord. If you're comfortable in Telegram, the team are there as well. But also we had community members talk about how they can improve the utility, how we can add utility back to the Imbue token. And one of my fundamental goals of Imbue, and I know that's not going to happen this year or the year after, but I want to fund, like, say, a farmer somewhere in Africa or Southeast Asia or Latin America, somewhere where they have issues with opportunities where they live, right? And I'm able to categorically or definitively say, this is why you should use Web3, because it gives you these opportunities. That farmer, he or she might not be interested in Web3, but if it gives them access to funds to fund their farm, then they will be open to it. And working with maybe a third party, because now we're taking funds from on-chain and moving it off-chain, but that farmer just is interested in getting fiat. So this third party can give them the funds after they raised via something like Imbue. They sell whatever they need to sell in the harvest, give it back to that third party that then introduces more buyback pressure, for example, how they distribute the rewards to the community or the community of funders. I want to achieve that, because now we can demonstrate that Web3 isn't just DeFi, right? Web3 isn't just like casino gambling, because that's what most of the critics would say. You're able to categorically say that. So, it depends on how your definition of help, but any help of towards that goal or vision is extremely welcome, not only from me, but the community as a whole.
So thank you, Sam, for that answer. Now, unfortunately, we are arriving to the final of this interview. Thanks to Imbue.network to be with us. And now you, Sam, are free to say anything you want to conclude this amazing interview.
Yeah, of course. Well, thank you so much for having me. I think when we started Imbue, we started with the vision that we won't do any funding. We won't go for any funding, because we wanted to demonstrate, that what we built has value. We built an MVP first, and then we went to the community and said, look, we've built this MVP. Do you think it has value? Should we even go to Kusama? Right? That was our question to the community. Because if what we built was not usable, right, like a lot of products are not usable in Web3, and it's just hype, we won't even risk any community funds, not even like on sales, but crowd loans either. We won't lock people's funds on a chain when they can't use the chain itself. We also decided to open up our board, like in software engineering or in lots of IT companies, they work in agile methodologies where they work off an agile board and people can see what people are doing. That level of transparency was just unheard of in the Web3 space. Not only can you see who the devs are, but what they're working on and how long they've been working on something for. That's incredibly powerful to gain the trust of your community and show them that we have nothing to hide. You can see and track the progress. So we did it in a very open source manner. So my last point would be, absolutely whatever project you're in, regardless of whether it's in Polkadot or not, hold the projects accountable. for any promises they make, ask them to verify. Things changed, but the bear market absolutely affected a lot of chains. But what's important is having that transparency and trust, because the more projects that end up building things in a transparent and honest way, the more trust we have in this ecosystem, which means we gain more users and adoption.
Thank you, Sam. That was amazing to conclude this interview. So thank you, Sam, for being with us today. And for sure, you will have all the social network of social media of Imbue in the description of video: Twitter, Telegram, Discord, and see you there for sure. Thank you, Sam, to be with us. And for our listeners, see you in the next interview. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you so much for having me.